Welcome to On the Beat. We're here at the United Center, the home of the Chicago Bulls, ahead of Syracuse's matchup with Gonzaga in the Sweet 16 tomorrow night. Behind us is Iowa State holding their open practice. Talk a little bit about the Syracuse-Gonzaga matchup. The only two double-digit seeds left in this tournament are Syracuse and the Bulldogs, and I know, Sam, you wrote about it a little bit this week. How Jim Boeheim discussed, tournaments kind of define people's seasons, and it's kind of ironic because that's how it's defined Syracuse's seasons. Talk a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, he actually said last Saturday between Syracuse's two wins last week. It's kind of unfortunate that people's seasons are defined by this tournament. He was more referring to Michigan State that had that awful loss to the 15th seed in Middle Tennessee. So I think that when you think about that in that context, obviously it was a really tough loss for Michigan State, but Syracuse, it really kind of benefits them. I mean, this is how their season will be remembered. This tournament, obviously there's going to be a lot, to look back on with the suspension and the crazy Battle for Atlantis win and the run they had in the middle of the season, and then the awful stretch at the end of the year has been up and down, to say the least, but this is what people remember. If Syracuse were able to get to the Elite Eight tomorrow night, I mean, that's what this season is. This season is about that run, and no matter how you kind of look at it, it's so much of it depends on March and how Syracuse plays that.
Kind of shifting focus to Gonzaga, the 11th seed, but they come out of the West Coast Conference. They've got two of the better big men in the country, Kyle Wiltjer and Domantas Sabonis, so we'll kind of just preview them first. Wiltjer was a transfer from Kentucky, won a national title with the Wildcats. 6'10" big man who can really step out and hit threes. Shoots about 50% from three-point range, just a little bit below that. Sabonis ranked 6th or 7th in the country in rebounds per game this season with about 11.6. So Syracuse and Tyler Roberson, who's been playing really well on the glass the first two games, is going to have his hands full against the Lithuanian and Sabonis. And Wiltjer, I mean, both guys are very versatile, agile big men, and I think one thing that Wiltjer is going to do is pose a lot of problems for the zone, whether it be in the short corner or the high post or at the foul line. He's going to be the guy probably getting the ball at that foul line and just kind of exploiting the spaces and the crevices in that zone. So I think that's one area that Syracuse could be exploited in. I mean, Sam, talk a little bit about Sabonis and how kind of maybe he could resurrect Syracuse's haunted rebounding struggles.
Well, yeah, Syracuse was 14th out of 15 in the ACC in rebounding, so clearly it's not their strong suit. But they found ways to win, despite their poor rebounding, and they've also found ways to rebound the ball well in this tournament. Out rebounding Dayton by 20. Obviously, this is a different animal. But Syracuse, I guess, is a little lucky they don't have to face Shemek Karnowski. He's probably one of their better rebounders that was injured earlier in the season for Gonzaga. But the Bulldogs are clearly one of the bigger teams in this tournament. They're one of the better teams remaining, despite their seed. But Syracuse has played good teams throughout the season. They found ways to hang with them on the road, on neutral courts. So, I would not be, I know everyone's kind of pointing Gonzaga's way on this, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is at least a very competitive game. And if Syracuse finds a way to, make up for the rebounding deficiencies, then it might kind of haunt them against this much larger Gonzaga team.
And next we'll go X Factor for Syracuse. So I guess, Sam, if there's one player, maybe besides Michael Benajay and Trevor Cooney, that you think needs to have a huge, it could even be Trevor Cooney.
Yeah. That
needs to have a huge game for Syracuse. Who do you think it would be?
I mean, you talked about, some of the big men, and you wrote about both of them today. I would say one guy that really kind of needs to step up is Dajuan Coleman, because Syracuse is really going to be playing, like you said, these big guys down low, and he's always a presence. Whether or not he's scoring a lot or rebounding a lot, his big body is really always going to be a presence. So he needs to, have that ability against this team, because if he's not showing up, then it's going to be very hard for maybe a guy like Tyler Lydon, who's just a little bit, he's kind of like Kyle Wiltjer a little bit, but he's just not the same, polished player. So it's going to be up to, someone like Dajuan to be that presence down low.
Yeah, I'm going to go kind of same front court. Last week I picked Tyler Roberson as X Factor, and he went off for 14 and 18, so maybe I'll be right again. I'm going to go Tyler Lydon, because I think this year when Syracuse has faced teams like Dayton with only one really big guy, Steve McElvain was their only big guy and Roberson dominated. This Gonzaga team has two big guys, so Roberson's going to need some help. He's going to get his fair share of rebounds, but Lydon needs to be there to get maybe 8, 9, even 10 rebounds would be a really good added bonus. And we saw Tyler Lydon, especially last weekend, I think he missed 4 straight free throws, and then after that he came back with some really crucial defensive rebounds while Roberson was sitting out, finished with 14 points, was arguably the second best player in that game for Syracuse behind Michael Benajay. So especially with the two big guys, Wiltjer and Sabonis for Gonzaga, Tyler Roberson's going to need some help, and I think Tyler Lydon's going to hopefully need to provide that for Syracuse. And like we finish every On the Beat, as Jesse would say, he's not here with us today, but predictions. So I'll go first, and I pick Gonzaga. I have the Bulldogs winning 71-65. Like I said earlier, I just think Kyle Wiltjer is going to be the player of this game, kind of exploiting the zone in numerous different ways that he can, from behind the arc, from the foul line, from the short corner, from the low block. And the Bulldogs put up just enough points to kind of end this magical run that Syracuse has going.
You know, I was up for the exact same score. I didn't realize I picked Syracuse to lose 68-65. And while I think this will be a good game, and it really could go either way, and obviously working with a 10 seed and an 11 seed, probably two teams that are better than that. But I mean, it's really hard to pick Syracuse to win this game. You know, like everything Matt just said, it's certainly things are going against them, but they have the ability to make up for the deficiencies in other ways, like we've talked about. So I mean, this is going to be a really good competitive game, late night on Friday. So I mean, it's it all comes down to
stay awake.
I'll have to stay awake. It's an hour earlier here in Chicago, so we'll be all right. And obviously, you know, this is what it's all about. So it's gonna be fun.
Yeah. So keep up with @DioSports on Twitter, dailyorange.com throughout today, throughout the open practices and interviews. And obviously, leading up to the game tomorrow, going to be a good day. We'll get some sleep, and then around 9:40 tip-off. Thanks for joining.